What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living here in West Africa. And if you want to know why there are so many Lebanese in Sierra Leone running businesses and in positions of power, and why that has been a conflict with some of my subscribers and some of the followers of the channel, then this is the video for you. You guys are about to find out why there are so many Sierra Leoneans so many Lebanese in Sierra Leone, and why I'm interviewing some and why some people were upset. We got a lot to talk about today, and I want to make sure I get through it all. So first things first, thanks everyone for joining. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. So we're live on all those platforms. If you are on any of those platforms, let me know that you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up so I know that you guys can hear me. Let me know that you guys can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. I'm going to look for your thumbs up so I know that you guys can hear me. And if you're joining on Instagram Live, I want you to head over to the link in my bio so that you can watch along with the presentation. Shout out to Samara that's joining and everybody else who's joining from Instagram Live. But can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up. So Andy G says, blessed everyone. What's up, Andy G? And we have Miss Elaine 121 says, hey, Joe, glad I made it to the live. I'm glad you made it to the live as well. iTuber says you can hear me. Give me the thumbs up. And Andy G says, yes, you can hear me. Okay, cool. On Instagram, can you guys hear me? I see you guys are all there. By the way, you see the pinned link here. If you want to see what comments people are saying and follow along with the discussion, I am going to have a presentation that I'm going to present today. If you want to see that live, click on the link in my bio, in my profile, whatever you call it on Instagram now, and then you'll be able to follow along with the conversation. Sang Bay says, you can hear me. Great. So we'll get to it in just a second. Just want to make sure that everybody gets on. I see a lot of familiar faces, so shout out to all of you guys for joining. We got a lot to cover today, lots of updates. And okay, cool. So HSE awareness gives me a thumbs up on Instagram. Okay, great. So you can hear me. And so does T-Chaka's app also said you can hear me. Okay, great. All right, good to know. And by the way, if you guys are just joining on Instagram, Delzer _.046 said you can hear me as well. If you want to join in the live discussion and watch what questions are being put on screen and what I'm presenting, go to my bio, the profile, and click on the link there. That'll take you to the live. So iTuber says, looking forward to this topic. I welcome folks from all over the world and encourage FDI. Foreign direct investment is what FDI stands for. I think what most folks worry about is Lebanese takeover and state capture. So I get why some are worried. All good points. And there's a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack for sure. So HSE awareness says to check out their page. So after this live is over and you guys are watching the replay, you finish following this, go ahead and check out HSE awareness's page. By the way, and Anadu is also saying they can hear me. Cool. Again, if you're following on Instagram Live, head over to my profile so you can watch along in the conversation. We got a lot to cover today, and it's a bit of a controversial topic. I've had some interesting discussions with some folks, and we're going to talk about all of it today. iTuber12 says, despite some families being in Sierra Leone for generations now, I oppose citizenship for them because this nation and Liberia were specifically created to be the homeland of Black people. Well, I would say Freetown in Sierra Leone was specifically created to be the hometown, but not Sierra Leone as a country, right? Sierra Leone was just quote unquote discovered, right, by the Portuguese and named by them Mountain Lion, or Lion Mountains, and the borders drawn, but it was not specifically for the liberated Black folks. It was actually Freetown. British abolitionists worked with some freed slaves from Nova Scotia and then other folks who were freed slaves and helped them settle into Freetown. But the entire country wasn't built for that. So I do have to dispute that one fact. But iTuber, I do understand what you mean. He also says, as far as other African countries like Ghana, Kenya, et cetera, which allows to get citizenship, I'm not opposed to that, as that is their policy. Okay, so we're going to talk, if you guys can't tell by some of the comments already, we're going to talk about Lebanese in Sierra Leone in particular. I'm going to do a whole separate video about Lebanese across West Africa because it's a conversation that is happening and occurring ongoing. I've had that conversation here in Ghana at length. I've had the conversation in Nigeria, and I've also had that conversation in Sierra Leone. But we're going to talk about Sierra Leone today, in particular because I'm interviewing Sierra Leonean business owners, and I interviewed a Lebanese, Senegalese business owner living in Sierra Leone, and it stirred up quite the controversy. So we're going to talk about that today. And so, but of course, like with any topic that seems controversial, I use it as an opportunity to educate, teach, and share the history that I learned with you all. So it's not just about salacious controversy. It's really about us sharing information and learning and applying what we learn. Okay, so with that, it looks like a few people have joined and a few more people are joining. Again, if you're just joining on Instagram Live, we're talking about Lebanese in Sierra Leone. And if you want to follow along with the conversation, go to my profile and click on the link in my profile. You see a link pinned here, or a message pinned on Instagram. So just check out that pinned message. Okay, so let's get into it. So Miss Elaine 121 is asking, why are Lebanese leaving their country? They can't stay over there. They've had some challenges there. There's been civil unrest there. There are a number of different reasons. We'll talk a little bit about the different reasons throughout history that they migrated. But if you can imagine why so many people go to the United States from other countries, family members go there and tell them this is a land of certain types of opportunity. That's why many people go there. Sierra Leone and West Africa has a very similar process. iTuber12 says, before I ever went to Sierra Leone, I was told the Lebanese run the economy and treat Sierra Leonean workers poorly. We're going to get into all of that for sure. All right, so without further ado, let's get right into my presentation. As you know, that has been my thing the last few weeks, is presenting on screen. So again, if you're joining from Instagram and you'd like to see the presentation, you do want to head over to my profile and click the link in the description. And in that link, I will share with you. I'm sorry, in that link, you'll be able to watch along live. Sorry. Okay, cool. So Kwame says, we know why they're coming. They see opportunities where some of us don't. Good point, Kwame. And iTuber12 says, Lebanon economy has fallen by 50% the past few years. The currency lost a lot of value, etc. It's a bad situation in Lebanon. So I get why they are all over the world now. So these are some comments coming from the comments section. Again, if you're following on Instagram and you want to see the comments, head over to the link in bio. All right. All right. Miss Elaine 121 says Africa is for diasporans only. Diasporans only. I'm going to have to disagree with that. I mean, I'd like to think that we as diasporans can maximize the value of what we have in our countries. But unfortunately, that has not shown or proven to be true thus far. Therefore, in some instances, it does behoove us to work with others and have others do that as well. iTuber12 says, all in all, I applaud their industrious nature and welcome them. Miss Elaine 121 says, I mean the West African countries and where Black people are the majority. Okay, so let's get into this presentation. Okay, before I do one more comment. Okay, so Talija says, Sierra Leoneans will benefit a lot by embracing non-Sierra Leoneans, especially Lebanese. Demonizing foreigners is just eating sour grapes. we as people are generally non-entrepreneurial. This is coming from a Sierra Leonean speaking about Sierra Leoneans. That is Talija's specific viewpoints. I would actually say Sierra Leoneans tend to be very entrepreneurial. I think the challenge is some of the other things that we will talk about today. So let's get into it. But before we talk about the past and why there's such controversy in the history of Lebanese and Sierra Leone, let's talk a little bit about the future. So today, of course, we are talking about why people are upset at some of the content that I've done recently. And I have more to come, by the way. There are other Lebanese living in Sierra Leone who were either born there or in third generation or not, who I am interviewing because I'm interviewing business owners in Sierra Leone. And some of the biggest businesses happen to be owned by them, which we will talk about in a moment. So that is happening. That is not changing. Sorry, not sorry. But we'll talk about why today. Wednesday, I am posting a video of a Sierra Leonean who left Sierra Leone, who lives in the United States. Funny enough, it's a small world. She happens to live in the same city as my mother and knows my mother. She calls my mom Auntie Joya, actually. So it was crazy when we met. We were in a Sierra Leonean YouTuber group, and when we met, she told me where she lives, and I was like, oh, my mother lives there. We started talking. She's like, who's your mother? I told her my mother's name. She's like, oh, I know your mother. So her name is Veronica. She's a YouTuber, and she creates content. She's living in the U.S. now. So we're going to talk about her move. I interview her, and that is going to be live on Wednesday. And then on Sunday, we have part 2 to the 10 things I wish part 3 to 10 things I wish I knew before coming to Sierra Leone. Many of you who are YouTube subscribers found me through the 10 things I wish I knew before coming to Sierra Leone. And there have been many updates, and Veronica and I will talk you through at least the 5 major updates and the changes that shocked me, and to make sure you don't make the same mistakes we did when traveling to Sierra Leone. And this is just in time for the Easter / Independence Day celebrations, as people are traveling to Sierra Leone in the coming 2 weeks, as will I. So I will make sure to share those updates so you guys all know what to look out for. All right, so that is this weekly schedule, and that's going to be the weekly schedule moving forward. I'm just going to be sticking to that. So just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. That's what is to come. So make sure you stay up to date. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that thumbs up. Make sure you share this with anybody who might be looking to visit Sierra Leone, build a business in Sierra Leone. This could be helpful for them. And turn on post notifications, of course, so you're notified every time a new video comes out. Okay. Talija says, out of the 17 or 18 tribes in Sierra Leone, there are 2 tribes, namely Timni and Fulas, who are inherently entrepreneurial. That is according to Talija. iTuber says, I should say this as well. I think the main reason people are worried about Lebanese taking over Africa is because they know a Black person would never be allowed to do so in any Middle East country. Okay, we don't want to get too far off on a tangent, but that may be true. But let's move forward. Okay, so the website and everything else that's coming. So we got a lot of things coming, guys. I've had this YouTube channel for 2 years. I've had the Instagram page since 2019. So 2019, about almost 4 years now, or actually 4 years for the Instagram page. And with that, it's now becoming a multimedia platform. And so it's not just the e-commerce store, which I'm relaunching, as I mentioned, in the next week. It's not just a multi-vendor marketplace, which we talked about. So this is the e-commerce store, the multi-vendor marketplace, which we talked about previously. I'm not going to spend too much time on this now. This is coming. I'm actually setting up the first vendors right now as we speak. So I'll be able to share that with you all next week. We also have an app that'll be coming, so you can download the Authentic African app. You'll be able to stay up to date with all the news and information that I share on that feed. And also the e-commerce store will be available to you there too. So if you want to buy anything made in Africa, in the States, you can do that. And if you are in Sierra Leone, you'll be able to, and Ghana, actually, you'll be able to buy a number of different things, electronics and other things that you might be used to having in the United States if you're living on the continent. So that's all coming. Now, here's what's new. I hit my goal of 70,000 followers. That was my goal on Instagram for 2023. My goal was to hit 70,000 followers by the end of 2023. I hit 70,000 followers on Sunday morning. And as of right now, we're at 71,500. So 1,500 new followers on Instagram in the last 2 days. I want to thank you all for your support. Everybody who's been joining the lives and who've been supporting the content. I'm putting a whole lot more energy into it. As you can tell, I'm have more community engagement. We're posting more about things that are happening in Africa and the diaspora, the changes that are happening. And I'm really pushing to ensure that I'm bridging the gap between the diaspora and the continent of Africa. I happen to be someone who falls into both categories, right? My name made me African as a kid growing up, but out in the world, I was a Black American to everyone else. And so I happen to have both experiences. And now living back on the continent, I want to ensure that we're bridging the gap because people are trying to nation build in the United States. You might as well come home and do it on the continent. So on this note, I am going to start offering Instagram promotion to people and their businesses. Now, this is going to be relegated to diasporans and to Africans on the continent who want to promote their businesses on the Authentic African Instagram page. And then eventually other places, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. My TikTok is growing as well. I have a little over 19,000 followers on TikTok as well. So overall, we're over 90,000 followers across all platforms, almost 100,000 followers across all platforms. And I want to thank you all for that. My Instagram goal by the end of the year is to get to 100,000 followers on Instagram, 20,000 on YouTube, and 50,000 on TikTok. So those are the goals. And when I do, I'm going to be able to share your stories and your businesses with those audiences. Couple quick questions before we move on. And so these are just some of the stats. Most of my audience is 18 to 54. It's majority men. As of right now, at least for the last 90 days, you can see that my top locations are the US, UK, Nigeria, South Africa, and Canada. But my top cities are New York, Lagos, London, Houston, and Nairobi in terms of content consumption on the Instagram page. So iTuber asked the question, and first he says, well done, thank you. There's a few congratulations, thank you very much. Sawana saying happy Easter and congrats on social media growth. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm really excited about this. You have no idea how I had this goal when the year started, and I far surpassed that goal. So the question that iTuber has is on January 1st, 2023, how many followers did I have? That's a great question. I know down to about 1,000 or so. I had right around 49,000 followers on Instagram when January 1st rolled around. I remember I had 49,300 on December 27th. And I think I was up about 49,800 around, or about 50,000, just about 50,000 when we struck 12 New Year's and into the new year. And so my goal was to get 20,000 new followers throughout the rest of the year. And with some hard work and some luck, I was able to hit 70,000 within 4 months. And so now I have new goals for this year. And of course, that has a lot to do with all of you, right? You guys have been sharing the content. You've been engaging with the content. I no longer am shadow banned on Instagram. For a while, I feel like I was shadow banned on Instagram and I had a hard time showing up in people's feeds. I had my own personal page and I would never be able to show up in my feeds. I had to do extensive searches to be able to find it. But it looks like it's starting to show up in people's feeds. And that's thanks to all of you guys. So I want to thank you all for your support. Okay, so that's the Instagram promotion. So that's coming, and promotion across all platforms, but Instagram promotion is coming first. And I'll be launching that with the relaunch of the website. So you guys can be on the lookout for that. So hopefully by next week, we can do a couple of announcements around the consultation, the Instagram promotion, and the launch of the website. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Sorry, guys, but there's been some questions on this, so I wanted to make sure I covered them. Also, sorry, guys, light just keeps coming on and off in this particular light above my head. So hopefully that is not too distracting. Okay, So I'm also going to be launching travel guides that I will be selling. I'm going to be doing travel checklists and things to know before traveling to specific cities that I'll offer for free. And then I will be selling travel guides with the best restaurants, how to find, rental car services, drivers and their information, what ferries to use, all kinds of different things that people just need to know when they go to different countries. Along with one of our great subscribers, who has Talking Drums Travel. We're going to start far right with Tanzania. She put together a great travel package for someone, and a lot of what they did is what I want to share in the travel guide, and then I want to work with her on some other things there. I haven't even spoken to her about that yet, but I do want to work with her on some other things there. Also going to do a travel guide for Nigeria. As many of you know, I have been to Nigeria. I also know some people who live there and some other people who go back and forth frequently. So there's a lot to talk about. We're working our way from right to left. I know that's not normal, but that's what we're doing it. Egypt in the middle. If you guys don't know, I've been to Egypt, learned a lot, great restaurants, had an amazing time, and I know some Egyptians. So I want to put together a travel guide for those people who want to go to Egypt. Sierra Leone, of course. I have to do a Sierra Leone travel guide. That's going to definitely happen. So that's coming. And then, of course, a Ghana travel guide because I live in Ghana and I travel to Sierra Leone often. I spent 5 months in Sierra Leone last year, 4 months in Ghana last year. And so, I'm putting together travel guides for folks. So these are the things that are coming. These are all the things that are coming this year. As you can tell, I'm really excited about the growth of the platform and how things have really taken shape this year. And the Authentic African Media platform is really what it's going to be moving forward with an e-commerce store and the like. You can look at it like companies like the Black Effect Network or the Shade Room, maybe some similarities between the Shade Room because they have a shop, they have some promotions that you can do. They do share up-to-date news. They do a lot of celebrity gossip as well. I won't do as much of that. It's really going to stick to more news and information and some levity and things like that. It's more highbrow for me, but they do a lot of great news now as well. I've known about the Shade Room since 2015. And I think they started in 2014 and they've had tremendous growth. So you can expect that the Authentic African platform will be similar to that, but in the African context, but with a little bit more highbrow type content. A couple of things before we get into today's content. So these are all the things that are coming. I wanted to get that all out the way. Now we're going to talk about what happened this last week. Why people are a little upset with me and why Lebanese are in Sierra Leone. But before we do, there are a couple other questions and comments that are coming up, and I want to make sure I address them. And of course, if you're joining from Instagram Live, head on over to my profile and click on the link in my profile or the link in my bio, and that'll take you directly over to the YouTube channel where you can watch this. HSC Awareness says, bro, I create content, but not like you and not many followers, and that doesn't give me the motivation to do more, but you have spoken positively. Thanks. Of course, absolutely. I want to encourage people to create content for sure. HSC Awareness is congratulating me. Thank you very much. And to all of you who are joining on Instagram Live, remember to head over to the link in my bio so you can watch along live. HSC Awareness, send me a message in my DMs and we can talk about potentially working together. Okay, Destination Africa Group, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining. All right, so a couple more comments and questions I want to get to before I move into today's content. iTuber says, so this would be a one-way flow of products from USA to West Africa. So a seller in the USA would advertise with you to capture a market in West Africa. It's a good question. So there's kind of two different elements to this. So if you want to advertise your business, period, you can do that on my Instagram page. It really doesn't matter where you're located. You determine how you want to service your customers. 60% of my followers are outside of the continent of Africa, but they are diasporans. So it's a way to be able to target those folks. But 40% of my followers are on the continent, at least on Instagram. So if you have businesses in Sierra Leone, you can also market to those groups as well. So it's really up to you to decide how you want to get your products to your customers or products and services to your customers through advertising on the platform. That is not going to be up to me. Now, what I'm talking about is I myself am offering products that I have and make available through some drop shipping services and others for people in America who want to buy African products. So that's products that are made in Mali, products that are made in Kenya, products that are made in South Africa, Ghana, Senegal. These products are all ethically sourced, handmade, handcrafted, and I am selling them in the United States. I had been previously, went for a year and a half not selling them, going back live, and we'll be selling those again. The difference now is that I'm also going to be bringing in products from the US to people in Sierra Leone, in Ghana, who want to buy products. Those are all my businesses that I'm going to be running. I will also have the multi-vendor marketplace for sellers here on the continent who want to be able to ship to their other customers locally and want to be able to collect credit cards. And also diasporans in the diaspora, a multi-vendor marketplace for them to be able to sell products to wherever they ship their products to. So that is kind of the two things, is the advertising on one side and the platform on the other. All right. Don't want to spend too much time on that. Hopefully that answers the question, but don't worry. Next week, since there's some questions about this, we'll dive deeper into that. Okay. Those are dope graphics. Share who made these when you can. LOL. I might grab Salon in Ghana. Is it a digital only product or will there be a hard copy? They will be. So you're talking about the travel guides. The travel guides for right now will be digital only products. However, you can print them out if you want to. They just won't be on fine paper. Eventually, there'll probably be tabletop guides that you can put on your table, like coffee table guides. But for right now, they're going to be digital products. Yes, because I like to do high margin, low overhead businesses, which means I will be doing this as all digital products for now, and then eventually we'll print them and send them out. Okay, the time is, this is Arlatillo. Says the time has come for African-American brothers to begin their return to the homeland. You are absolutely right. Sovereignly, Africa also belongs to African-Americans. There you go. iTuber says, yeah, I need some African print baskets, so I'll be buying for sure masks too. Great, because I got masks and I got baskets. I don't know if I have African print baskets, but I have Senegalese baskets that I will be selling, and I do have masks from all over the continent of Africa that I'll be selling on the store too. All right. We spent a lot of time going through those questions and comments. Let's get into the content. Sorry for those of you who've been waiting. All right. So, again, if you're joining on Instagram, head over to the link in my bio if you want to follow along with the presentation so you can see what I'm presenting on the screen. All right. So here's the conversation. A bunch of comments such as this, some not so disparaging, some that were, and I'm going to address all of them. That is the reason for this discussion today. We're going to get into each one of these later on in this discussion, but I just wanted to share that for now. All right. All right. So the background, what happened, and the history of the Lebanese in Sierra Leone. So I did an interview of Nada Maki, who is the co-founder, her with her partner Lisa, of Nali Spa, sorry. And they do hair, nails, and it's a spa. They do massages as well. And it's a very, very nice spa. And I interviewed them. And by the way, they introduced me to a ton of other people, and they were super professional, on point, great atmosphere, even gave me a free massage. So I have to redeem that. I have the card here. I'm going to redeem that free massage. Here it is. I'm going to redeem that free massage when I go back to Sierra Leone. So very hospitable. I interviewed them, great business, and I was introduced to many other people through them, and I'll talk about some of those folks as well. And they were on top of it. And you could tell by the way I'm saying they were on top of it and they were very nice, that there's probably a difference between that and some of the other people that I attempted to interview. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that is partly why I interviewed them. And that's partly why they went first, because they were extra accommodating, and they were in a rush to travel, and they made sure to make time to do it. And so I made sure that I posted their videos first of all the videos I'm doing from the content that I did while in Sierra Leone. So all of that is coming in the coming weeks. But so that happened, and all those comments you saw is where you saw that's where all the comments came from, and we'll address each one of those comments in a section, in a second. Sorry. Okay, so Haji Ba says, why get angry with Lebanese and Sierra Leone? They take risk and invest their money in Sierra Leone, Africa as a whole. Why Africans take their money and hide in Western banks? Good point. We'll talk a little bit about that. Arlatillo says, from Sao Tome and Principe with a big hug. I don't know where those places are, but shout out to you. I've heard, I feel like I've heard of those places, but I don't know exactly where they are. So apologies. I'm not the greatest with geography. The Lebanese come because they find opportunity here, and one more reason for African-American brothers to return. Okay. All right. So now let's get into the presentation. So here's a little bit of history on why Lebanese are in Sierra Leone in particular. And some of this speaks to Lebanese across the continent of Africa. On the top right, you see a picture depicted of one of the earlier Lebanese families in Sierra Leone. This picture is from the earlier 1900s, before the 1960s. I know it looks really, really old, but it's a little over like 80 years old or something, 70 or 80 years old. And then another picture is just depicting another migration of Lebanese leaving their country. Okay, so let's talk about what it says on the left. So it started actually in the mid-19th century. So in the 1800s, when a silkworm crisis struck their homeland, which was then a part of the Ottoman Empire. Later, more Lebanese immigrants arrived in Sierra Leone in 1893, when the first groups of Maronite Christians came to, at that time, what was British Sierra Leone. Then later in the early 1900s, Shia Muslim Lebanese began to arrive in Sierra Leone as well. And by the 1920s, the Lebanese community in Sierra Leone began to enjoy better access to credit because it was British Sierra Leone, and started to play a role in extending credit to agricultural producers in the interior. So you'll notice that in some of my interviews, I'll talk to people and they'll say there are third or fourth generation Sierra Leonean, that their family just celebrated 100 years in Sierra Leone. This helps you understand where that's coming from, right? And as you start to listen to some of my interviews, you'll hear a little bit about the role of some Lebanese in Sierra Leone, some of the grants that they've gotten, some of the loans that they've gotten, the business that they do, and why they've been so successful. And we'll talk a little bit about some of that today, but definitely you'll see that in some of the interviews for sure. All right, let's move on. So the rates of intervention by the colonial government did grow at some point, and that made it challenging for them. In the 1930s, the Lebanese community in Sierra Leone began to consolidate their position in trade, and as they started working on importing and exporting, agriculture, and mining. And so there are many Lebanese in the mining sector in Sierra Leone and many other sectors too, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then according to one article, which I couldn't find out the name of these 5 key Lebanese families, but in the 1970s, this article is claiming that the 5 families consolidated their power. And I can tell you at least one of the families I met is doing really well for themselves and do own a pretty substantial amount of businesses. So we'll talk about some of those businesses in a second. So let's talk about the current population in Sierra Leone. But before we do, I want to make sure that I address some of the questions and comments that are coming up. So Arlatillo says, Sao Tome and Principe is an African island located in the western part of the country. Its official language is Portuguese. So is it in the western part of the continent, right? Is that what you mean? Or is it actually off the coast of Sierra Leone? Please tell me, because I actually don't know about these islands, but now I have to look it up, of course. 6 island African nations. Okay, that's what Arlatillo saying. Thank you for that. Okay. I don't know all 54 countries on the continent of Africa. So Our aristocratic wrath says, how does it feel to lose to Europe's wrath? That's an interesting question. I guess that was a troll. And, usually I read my questions silently before I read them out loud. I'm not going to address trolls. We're just going to keep moving. All right, cool. So the Lebanese community in Sierra Leone has played a significant role in the country's economy. They've been involved in trade and commerce since the 1930s and established themselves as successful entrepreneurs. The Lebanese community has been involved in various sectors in the economy, including retail. Many of them are in retail, many of them in wholesale, import-export business, as I mentioned before. They've also been involved in the diamond trade, which I also mentioned before. And in 1991 to 2002, we had the Civil War in many areas. And so many fled, established businesses elsewhere, and then ended up coming back with now international businesses and better ways to trade. So whereas most Sierra Leoneans left Sierra Leone and went to the States as refugees or into the UK during the Civil War, a lot of Lebanese that I've spoken to, they left Sierra Leone and went to neighboring countries, tried to establish businesses there, and now they have import-export businesses between Sierra Leone and those countries. All right, so here are so that's the history, right? So that gives you an idea of the history. Oh, I meant to also mention too, it was a 2016 estimate, so we're talking now 7 years ago, if I'm doing my math correctly. Yeah. So that was estimated to be between 44,000 and 150,000 people in Sierra Leone. So quite a few, especially if the population is right around 7 million people in Sierra Leone. You can imagine that, it's a pretty good percentage of folks in the country, right? And obviously you could see that they've integrated quite successfully in Sierra Leone society. So, and by the way, guys, if you're joining on Instagram Live and you want to follow along with the presentation, go ahead and head over to the link in my bio. You can see the comments that are being posted on screen, and then you can follow along with the presentation that I'm presenting. Okay, so a couple of comments on Instagram really quickly. And you know what? I think it's Arnasia, and you have to tell me your name. I'm going to be interviewing her at some point in time. But Arnasia says it's a good topic. Thank you. Part of the reason why we're doing this topic is your comments to me. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. And HSE Awareness said, bro, but to me, anywhere you find Lebanese, know they are there to clean up. Okay, there's some things that he's saying that I am not going to repeat out loud because I can't say disparaging things about a group of people. Okay, so Dr. EAMA is saying, where are you on YouTube? Just go to my link in my bio on Instagram, and you'll be able to click the link and go directly to the YouTube video. You'll find me there. So just the link in my bio. So if you're on Instagram, just click on the upper left-hand corner where it says the picture of my logo. Click on that. That'll take you right to my profile. Click on the link in my profile, and then you'll have to go. All right, cool. So moving on to the next topic. So today, that's what it looks like in Sierra Leone. So I thought this was interesting. I found a list of notable Lebanese in Sierra Leone. And more specifically, let me mention, these are notable individuals who were born in Africa or outside the Arab world and or outside of North Africa, and they're of Lebanese ancestry, or they're people of dual Lebanese and local nationality born in or residing in Africa. And these are folks specific to Sierra Leone. Now, why is that important? That comes back to some of the comments and questions that came up when I posted that interview that I mentioned, and the tour that I posted on Sunday. So here you have a very wealthy diamond miner, which is Hashim Maki. He actually donated a hospital, the Hussein Maki. So sorry, his name is Hisham Maki, but the hospital is the Hussein Maki Memorial Hospital that was donated. He was a diamond miner, and then also you have Naheem Kadi, who's the current president of the National Football Association, image here, and then obviously all these other folks are of Lebanese descent, but are living in Sierra Leone and have dual nationality outside of the Arab world, maybe have been born in Sierra Leone or born in Africa living in Sierra Leone. And that speaks to some of the things that we'll talk about in a bit. So here are the companies that I know for sure and who I've either frequented their businesses or I have interviewed or will be sharing interviews or doing interviews with the folks who own them. So Capital Limited on the far left is an organization that includes Capital Foods Group, which is Sierra Water and Sierra Juice. It also includes 3 hotels, including the main one, which is Sierra Palms Resort in Freetown, and then Protec Security and Logistics Services, which do residential and commercial real estate. So I interviewed the CEO of Capital Limited. It is a family business, and he's actually a really, really smart guy. I learned a lot from that interview. That'll be coming out in a few weeks, actually. And these are all the businesses. So I interviewed him. I interviewed Nada and from Nali Spa. So that was where the controversy came from. And she was the one and people she's associated with introduced me to folks here and introduced me to the owner of Pearl Hotel, which, as you guys know, is a place that I stayed on multiple occasions when I would travel to Sierra Leone. I have given that hotel so much business. In fact, I stayed there for 2 months last year, November, December. I stayed there. St. Mary's Supermarket, if I'm not mistaken, is also owned by Lebanese. Basha Restaurant, really pretty good food that's on Wilkinson Road. I used to go there all the time. As far as I know, they are Lebanese owned. And by the way, I was frequenting these businesses without knowing who the owners were. These were just good businesses. They were consistent. The staff was pretty good and treated me well. And these were all things that I found that made me want to continue frequenting these businesses. Later, I found out that they were not owned by people of Sierra Leone descent. Freetown Supermarket is a supermarket I had gone to very frequently, and Goody Supermarket is another one that I had gone to. As far as I know, all of these are owned by Lebanese or majority owned by Lebanese. All right. So let's now get into the discussion, right? What exactly was said? Why am I doing this live today? And let's get into it. So, but before we do, let me see if there are any more questions or comments from the folks on the live. So this is just another history lesson and geography lesson. I love it. Arlatillo, because I need it, and it's always helpful. So he mentioned that the African continent has 6 island countries: Cape Verde, which we all are familiar with, the Cape Verde Islands, Comoros, Madagascar, Mauritius, Sao Tome and Principe, and of course the Seychelles are all the 6 islands that are island countries on Africa. iTuber said, I had no idea they existed in Sierra Leone prior to Sierra Leone independence. This kind of makes them colonial collaborators, in my opinion. I need to do a more concrete research before I judge. Well, I don't know. Well, I guess you can call it colonial collaborators if they benefited from it. But then again, you can say that about many chiefs of West African descent. I mean, even people in my family lineage, if we're going to be honest, right? The chiefs were then also colonial collaborators. If you want to say anybody who was here and who benefited from colonial rule and were not sold into slavery, then they'd be colonial collaborators. So we can say that about the Lebanese that were here pre-colonial period, and we can say that about the many chiefs who still have long lines of family that are in chieftaincy today across West Africa. But also, yes, that's a good point. They could potentially have benefited for sure. Kwame says, I think this is very useful information and we need to be real. iTuber says, so it seems they made their money during colonial times when not many Africans were even allowed to have businesses. Yes, that happened. Same thing in the United States, right? There are a lot of American families that have generational wealth because they were able to take advantage of some of the loans that Lyndon B. Johnson, was it Lyndon B. Johnson? put into place the New Deal. I think Lyndon Johnson was the New Deal guy. Correct me if I'm wrong, in the United States. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely companies that definitely benefited from that. And then, of course, that would lead to other people migrating to the country, especially because they pool their resources and work together. So yeah, you're probably right about that. Maggie Moy says, how often does their money circulate to Sierra Leone businesses? That's a good question. It depends on if the businesses in Sierra Leone are ones that they decide they want to frequent, right? Because as I told you, before I knew the owners of many of the hotels that I stayed in or the restaurants that I ate in, I ate in them frequently because there were certain things that they did that I was used to and that I wanted. And what I also realized was by patronizing those businesses, I was also benefiting specifically just Lebanese businesses. And we'll talk a little bit about why. I now obviously frequent businesses that are Sierra Leone owned. And by Sierra Leone, I mean people of Sierra Leonean descent, or at least African descent living in Sierra Leone, because many people in Sierra Leone aren't actually of Sierra Leone. There are a lot of tribes in Sierra Leone. Somebody mentioned the Fula tribe before. The Creole tribe, of course, are an entire tribe of folks who are from other different tribes further back in their history and came and were reintroduced to a country that may or may not have been theirs. And we'll talk about that in another time. So Kwame says the Lebanese are in the Caribbean as well. Kwame is also saying we have Asians throughout Africa as well. Yes, that's true. And they are very powerful. True. Okay, so let's get back to the presentation. So the discussion, what was said. So first, let's talk about what happened. Okay, so last week on Wednesday, I started promoting the interview I did with Nali Spa. And I had some shorts, Instagram Reels, YouTube shorts, and TikTok videos that I was posting to promote the interview, as I will be doing with all interviews and all new content moving forward, putting pieces of the content out to share it with people to drive more traffic back to the original piece of content. As I said, we're building a multimedia platform here. And so if I'm doing that, and of course I have to create different pieces of content around one piece of content, which is what I've learned from other folks that I'm following. And when I did that, I got a lot of pushback. In fact, I got a lot of pushback the week that I interviewed the folks at Nali Spa. I even got pushback from maybe some of their competitors who said to me, why are you interviewing so many Lebanese? And I found that interesting, considering some of the people who asked me those questions were people who didn't show up or didn't make time to do the interview with me. And we talked about this in December. I don't know if you guys remember, I had a conversation about how frustrated I was. And then I did a live about challenges doing business in Sierra Leone and some of the issues with some of the businesses in Sierra Leone. And we talked about not only the issues and challenges, but also solutions, right? Because I don't want to just complain, and I don't want to just say all businesses in Sierra Leone are not working, because I'm going to be obviously promoting a ton of Sierra Leonean businesses by those who are actually of Sierra Leone descent. So I want to be very clear about that. But it doesn't mean that I haven't had challenges with some Sierra Leoneans and the businesses that they have. And just kind of, in some cases, blatant disrespect, if I'm being honest. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, you know, it was interesting to see some of the responses that I got personally. The posts that I'm showing here are only posts that I got on social media or with friends that were some were lighthearted, you know, but rooted in some real things. And then some other people who were just looking for clarity. But I want to share some of the responses that I got to help people understand how people were viewing this and then why people were upset. And I thought I could use that as a teaching moment to talk to people about the Lebanese in the continent, specifically in Sierra Leone. And then, of course, why I interviewed them. Because I think it's important, right? So I can address people in mass this way instead of all the individual comments that I was receiving. So some of them, again, I'm not doing this to disparage these people. I don't even have their names on these posts. I'm just showing what they wrote and then my responses to them, so that, and well, my responses, I'm going to verbalize them here so that you can hear them. so that you understand. So the idea is not to put people on blast. I'm not putting their names out there, but just what was the response to me posting these videos. So the first is on the far left. And I will say this was a DM that I got. As you can see, there was no introduction or no sign off. But I will say it ended up being a positive thing. And we're definitely going to be meeting in person when I get to Sierra Leone. But I can see that there was definitely a little bit of a challenge with seeing the content or the Lebanese content being posted based on this specific message. So the message reads as follows. This is my thing. The nail lady is saying that she's African and Sierra Leonean, but even diasporas say, like in your case, like what I say is I'm Sierra Leonean American, and your parents have direct heritage and DNA is from Sierra Leone. So what she was saying is, so the question I have is, should we be re-identifying ourselves collectively, or should the Lebanese people understand they aren't Sierra Leoneans, or is it just up to preference? Because I don't understand how you decide to just re-identify yourself, and I don't see how they don't view themselves as generational colonizers. Maybe I need more help with understanding. I recently relocated to Sierra Leone, by the way. So now this was a message that I got from someone who I think just genuinely was interested in understanding. But obviously, as you can see, there's clearly a little bit of disdain or an issue that they saw with this post, right? This video. And this is a lot of what I was receiving from people. And let me speak to this in particular, because I think this is important. You know, there is a difference between nationality and heritage, right? And there are many people who consider themselves foundational Black Americans in America, right? And even though their lineage traces back to West Africa, they will consider themselves Americans through and through. There are many first-generation Americans who consider themselves American. Why? Well, because they were born in America, they are American citizens, and that is their nationality, right? They are nationally American. Same thing with people who live in France and in Germany, and in other countries around the world, right? If you are born there, and or if you have citizenship, and or if you marry someone who has citizenship, you tend to, especially if you get naturalized as a citizen, you tend to then consider yourself one, right? And so in this case specifically, Nada was born in Senegal. She grew up in Nigeria. So that was the person who I interviewed, which was the question is what she's asking. And she's been in Sierra Leone for 27 years, married a Sierra Leonean whose family, if I'm not mistaken, has celebrated 100 years in Sierra Leone, right? So they consider themselves a Sierra Leone business because it's a 10-year-long business in Sierra Leone. She said in the video she considers herself African because she was born in Senegal and grew up in Nigeria. However, she does acknowledge that she has Lebanese heritage. And she said in the interview that she sees Lebanon as a place she would go to for holiday when she grew up. But her kids went to college elsewhere and moved back to Sierra Leone. So that was what she was explaining. But I can imagine from some people watching it, there's a visceral response, right, that people are having. And that's one of the things. In fact, here's an interesting thing. So here's another comment. So Arifatu Payne, this is a perfect example of someone who has a visceral response to the interview, right? So as I was going to it on the screen, we have someone who actually just commented now. So Afiratu says, why are you promoting white businesses in Sierra Leone? And make it make sense, though I doubt you can. So you see, these are the kinds of responses that I'm getting highlighting businesses in Sierra Leone. And so let's be very clear that I am promoting businesses in Sierra Leone for investments and good businesses in Sierra Leone. So those people who want to move to Sierra Leone can see what businesses are there. Now, I would have loved to promote another spa or another salon, which is considered a competitor of theirs, but they didn't make themselves available for 3 weeks straight when I tried to interview them. Not to mention the 5 or 6 other people, sorry, 7 people who either canceled, no call, no show, or showed up 2.5 to 4 hours late for my interview. Okay? 2.5 to 4 hours late. That was 7 of the 15 interviews that I did. Can I tell you what happened when I interviewed any of the Lebanese? They were ready for me. They had water. They had ring lights. They had their staff lined up and dressed and ready. They made it like an actual ideal scenario for an interview. I mean, if you could have seen it, and then if you could have seen how some of the relationships and the conversations I tried to have with some Sierra Leonean business owners, it was not great. Now, there were some great ones too. Don't get me wrong. And those are all coming. I'm definitely going to be posting those interviews. But as I said, the people who rushed to get an interview done when they had to go out of town and they made time to do it and they were over accommodating, I did want to get to them first, because not only were they over accommodating and did the best that they could to make it a comfortable experience and were really happy and gracious throughout the process, they also introduced me to many other people that I got a chance to interview. And so I'm forever grateful to them. And because they asked me to get out the video as soon as possible, I made it the first video that I posted. So, Arifatu, I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know if it made it make sense to you. I understand if it doesn't, but that is the answer to that question in particular. Great question from Ms. Elaine, 121. Did she marry a Black Sierra Leonean? No, she did not. She married a Lebanese person. So I don't know if that person actually has citizenship, but they're celebrating 100 years. I'm speaking to other people who might have had celebration. Miss Elaine says, I think what you're doing is good, Joe, because you need to show Black people how other races are doing well in Sierra Leone, how it can be done properly, and we can all get along. Sure. All right, so here's some more comments. Sorry, but how is she now an African? Truly asking for clarity or maybe the backstory. So that came from one of the links, the links in one of the posts that I posted. So she said she's African because she was born in Senegal and because she grew up in Nigeria, right? So that was the answer to that. But I actually gave them the link to the video so they could watch the video for themselves and get the full context. Then another comment said, and I think it's from the same person, we want you to showcase businesses owned by a Sierra Leonean person. And they said, these people have no good intent. So these are disparaging remarks about people who, by the way, have nothing but good intent and were really good to me. So I think that that's unfortunate, because I say that, look, if you want to see more of us being featured, then we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard and ensure that our people show up and that our people don't cancel last minute and that our people don't do no call, no show, or don't show up 4 hours late, right? Let's be real. I mean, this is what happened. And if you guys, many of you who've been followers for a while might remember that live I did at the end of December around challenges doing business in Sierra Leone. And the reason for that, as I said, was because I had gone through 3 weeks of having challenges trying to interview people. And then some of those people were very upset by seeing other people being interviewed. But by the way, trust me, the majority of my interviews are Sierra Leoneans, but trust me, it was not smooth getting a lot of these interviews. And I was over accommodating to make these things happen. Another response says, though I wish a Sierra Leonean did it, I'm all for foreign direct investment, no matter the size. So this wasn't actually a really disparaging comment. It was just a comment, but I want to make sure you guys see that there were comments about Lebanese, in this interview. This person said, I agree with the other commenter. Why do actual Black Sierra Leoneans not open these type of businesses? Some do, and we'll talk about some of the challenges that come with some of those who do in a second. And then they said, thank you for my response. I would love for you to do another deeper dive video on Black Sierra Leoneans and entrepreneurship challenges and solutions to them, which I did do. However, I will talk about some of those challenges and the solutions to them here because I want to bring back some of those comments and some things that I've added to that from that last live that I did. And then a friend of mine said, this interview is triggering, not gonna lie. So the same thing, right? The same idea. And so these are some of the comments. I'm not gonna, there were some comments that were really disparaging to me and to them that YouTube blocked, and I am not gonna post here because it's not appropriate to post them here. And I just don't think that it does anybody any good. It doesn't further the discussion or the conversation. And so I wanna make sure that I do try my best to be productive and, you know, like I said, not be salacious or to cause controversy, but really to be a productive person in how we have these discussions, right? So iTuber says, two things can be true. I completely understand why Black people were upset as we as a people are already behind and want to see Blacks helping Blacks. I also understand Joe's scheduling difficulties. And man, if you spend time in Sierra Leone and you work with some of the businesses in Sierra Leone, by the way, it's not particular to Sierra Leone. And honestly, it's really any tropical environment around the world. People are just very relaxed, right? It just happens to be that way. And it tends to be other people who come to those countries who tend to do things in a more expedient nature and fashion, and tend to have a little bit more of the Western professionalism that you're used to in the Western world, right? It is what it is. You know, this happens in a lot of tropical climates around the world. If you notice, people talk about Australians are really laxed as well. And those folks are mostly white folks. So it's not a people of color thing. I think it is a tropical climate thing. I think people just always want to be on vacation. But specifically in Sierra Leone, some of these things are challenges. And these were specific challenges that I was dealing with, trying to showcase people in my own country. I think some people were doing it because they felt like my platform was too small. I think some people were doing it because they just don't take this stuff that seriously. And by the way, I am the most professional when I approach this. You know, when I talk to folks, I present the idea to them. I send the questions beforehand. I send a meeting invite. I send an email, and I send a WhatsApp message with all of the questions. As soon as like we've scheduled an interview, I do all of that at least 24 to 48 hours before, give you the opportunity to decide what questions you do or don't want. And I even check in the day of before coming to the meeting. This is not what most people do when they're doing interviews. You know, I go above and beyond the extra mile. And for me to go through all of that, and for me to have run into the challenges that I did, you have to understand that this is why not as many Sierra Leoneans are featured. It's not because I'm doing it out of spite. It's because they didn't show up. They actually didn't show up. No call, no show. Showed up super late when I had another interview that I had to go to. So we had to reschedule. We couldn't reschedule. Some people just kept dodging my calls after we agreed to doing an interview, and then they just stopped answering my calls. It was pretty aggressively challenging to get these interviews done. And I want to be clear that these are some of the reasons. So I hope this answers some of your questions because, you know, again, I did not interview exclusively Lebanese, but there are going to be more Lebanese that whose interviews will show up. So WM West Africa 1980 said, without the Lebanese, Sierra Leone would have been even further behind. Just like without Turkey, they wouldn't have had a new airport. Some of those things can be true to some extent, right? So Maggie Moy says, don't let short-term goals undermine the long-term goals. That's exactly true. And that's one of the challenges that I've seen with some businesses in Sierra Leone and some business owners. I myself am looking for the long-term promotion of the continent of Africa and Sierra Leone. And so in some cases that will be featuring businesses that are not majority African owned in some cases. And that really will be because they happen to be either the best at what they do, or they happen to introduce me to other people who are the biggest at what they do, or the only ones who do that thing. And if we need to feature a specific industry like cocoa exports, for instance, the biggest cocoa exporter happens to be a Lebanese company, right? Okay, so Talija says, they have crowned it all. Generally, business is not our strong suit. If you cannot keep to an appointment, having business-like people that we could learn from or whose strengths could rub off on us is sensible. Miss Elaine says, too bad. The people who flaked on you missed out on a good marketing for their business. They did. And I'm not going to put them on blast. I'm not going to say their names. I'm never going to do that. I don't want to burn those bridges. And to be honest, I may still try to interview with them because at the end of the day, my goal is to highlight Sierra Leonean businesses, even if they frustrated me. And you can kind of hear it in my voice right now when I'm talking. It really frustrated me for this to happen because it was like, you guys are just perpetuating the stereotypes that people have about us. And I hate that for us. But at the end of the day, that's what was happening. And what else can I do but to, just put my pride to the side, let my ego die, and still chase after them for more interviews? Because at the end of the day, that's the goal, right? Is to promote Sierra Leonean businesses. So, that's the thing. So Wina says, I'm happy for foreign investments in Sierra Leone. However, I've heard that foreign business owners treat their Sierra Leonean employees poorly. That is true. So this is one thing that I will say that has come up a lot. Okay, so there's another thing too. I hope that Black Sierra Leonean businesses and owners improve the quality of business practices, customer service, and more open to bloggers promoting their businesses. I do too. So one of the things that is a really good point that people make is the treatment of Sierra Leoneans by non-Sierra Leoneans. Now, here's the thing that I wanna put out to you guys, because what I've seen is Sierra Leoneans also treating their staff poorly. And I've also seen Ghanaians treating their staff poorly. And I think it's actually what's happening is the foreigners are learning from local people how they treat their staff. I met a person who was from New York. She was white, Caucasian lady from New York living in Ghana. And she, in the US, had staff working for her and dealt with them a certain way. And then when she got here, she dealt with staff another way. And at first, it was triggering to me because I was like, why are you treating them that way, but you treat staff differently in the States? And what she told me was, when I talked to other people, they said I was too nice to my staff. I'm too nice to my staff. They'll never take me seriously if I don't yell at them. In Sierra Leone, in particular, we tend to be more confrontational with our communication from time to time, especially with our staff. And so what happens a lot is people do yell at their staff. I don't. I do get frustrated. But boy, do I get frustrated. But I tend to not yell at my staff. I can be more stern than I maybe was with some staff in the States, because culturally it's part of the culture here. But I think that that's something that we should think about, right? Think about if you've ever seen a Sierra Leonean and how they treat their staff, like especially their house staff, because I've seen some wild communication with people's house staff. Some really wild communication with house staff in Sierra Leone by Sierra Leoneans. Now, I also was triggered by going to a supermarket one time and seeing a Lebanese person yelling at a Sierra Leonean. Now, is that cultural in Sierra Leone and that always happens? Or are we seeing an oppressor yelling at the oppressed, right? There's a question that we need to ask ourselves, right? I think we need to really look at all of it and be sure of it. I don't like to see it at all, but I think we need to be clear that I'm not 100% sure. It's just that. Now, I have seen abuses. I've heard about abuses, especially with other nationalities or other people from other heritage coming to West Africa, and stealing resources and things like that, which this is different from how people talk to staff. But I want to just make sure I call that out because, as someone who visited for a while, I would only see others treating local staff that way. And then as I lived here, they no longer live in my building, but I saw someone go crazy on their staff here in the building that I live in. It was crazy. I could not believe the way they were talking to them. And it was between English and Tree, so I didn't capture everything they were saying, but I caught the parts in English. And I was like, wow, you were like degrading this person and berating them outside of the apartment in front of people. I've seen other people, I'm not going to mention how I know them or their relation, but I've seen someone straight up berate someone about her and her promiscuity and her kids and her uselessness in front of 6 people who don't know that young lady. Well, not young lady, she's my age, but I saw she was straight embarrassed, and that was by a Sierra Leonean embarrassing her. So look, I don't like to see it, but I don't know if it's only foreign people doing it in Sierra Leone. Now, the other question could be, did the Sierra Leoneans learn it from the foreigners, or did the foreigners learn it from the Sierra Leoneans? I don't know. But I'm just saying that it's not exclusive to foreigners living or perceived foreigners living in Sierra Leone. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's really important. And from my experience, I've seen a lot here in the 2.5 years that I've been here. And then in the 10 years that I've been coming back and forth, more specifically the last 5 years. But yeah, definitely seen it. Okay. A couple more questions that are coming up. John Poole says, how can I invest in African businesses? I am going to be fully going back into more investing related content and things like that. John, shoot me a DM and I'll send you information for a WhatsApp group that I'm putting together. It's been quiet and dead. I know I need more people to communicate in it, but I'll keep you guys posted and abreast of any investments that I know of if you find them interesting. So that's John on Instagram and a few others. HSC Awareness says, I'm back, bro. You really making sense. Well, thank you. I'm glad that it makes sense to some folks. I know I'm sure I am pissing off others, but I am just speaking the truth. And that's all I can do. You know, like one of the things that I might have mentioned to you all before I moved to the continent of Africa is I didn't come here with rose-colored glasses. I knew it was going to be a challenge living here. I knew that I'm going to run into some challenges, but I also knew it was going to be a fulfilling experience. Because I've been here many times. And of course, my parents grew up here and moved away. So I knew about some challenges. But if you just went to YouTube, all you would see is like how amazing it is to move here and to live here. And there are no issues and everything is amazing. And it is great living here. Don't get me wrong. I love it here, like I said, but there are many challenges. Just like there are many challenges to living in the West, there are many challenges to living here. And I just like to make sure I share all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, here's something else from Miss Elaine 121. What type of business is the woman from in New York? So the woman from New York was in marketing. And so she had a cleaner that used to come clean her house in the US. And she had some staff she had working for her here. Service staff though, but she's from the marketing field. So I hope that answers your question. All right, so let's get into what I ran into. So here's been my experience and interviews with founders, right? So some of the personal observations around challenges with businesses in Sierra Leone. And I've highlighted ones that are really specific to the founder. And honestly, things that they can fix. And I've left other ones that are, I think that things that maybe aren't their fault. So complacency. I have gone to many businesses that are just complacent. They don't make any changes. They don't reupholster their furniture. They don't do an uplift to the infrastructure and the building itself. It is just the same way it has been. Nali Spa just did a remodel of their whole spa, and they did a re-release and re-update and have everybody coming now. So that's one thing. They're not complacent. Arrogance is the next one. Some of you will find that there are some business folks in Sierra Leone who've built big businesses in Sierra Leone, and they are arrogant. And I hate to say it, but it's true. There's arrogance. And I have dealt with that arrogance. And like I said, I swallow my pride, put my pride to the side, put my ego to the side, because for me, it's about a bigger goal of presenting African businesses. But man, there are some arrogant people in Sierra Leone. And in my experience, the people that I've interviewed, those folks that were of Lebanese heritage, they were not arrogant. And they had some of the biggest businesses in their industries in Sierra Leone. I'm just saying. Some of my Sierra Leonean counterparts who have businesses that I may or may not have interviewed, there were some that had some serious arrogance. Serious arrogance. Lack of knowledge is one of the challenges people have on lower level roles within organizations. Lack of training. Actually, I should have highlighted that because that has come from the top down. Government systems, there's certain challenging government systems in place, and lack of communication. So here's something that's really interesting. Some people who are running late won't tell you they're running late. They just show up late. Or they say, Adekam, 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 Bolef Adekam, which is what somebody said to me when I was calling them after being 2 hours late. At the time that I called them, they were 2 hours late, and I had an hour before I had to meet my next interview. This person was 2 hours late, and they said to me, Bolef me Adekam, which means like, leave me alone, I'm on my way, right? And they showed up another 2 hours after that. They were 4 hours late. 4 hours late for the interview. 4 hours late for the interview, okay? Which made me have to push back another person who's a serious professional. In fact, I'm trying to see if I can talk about this without making it clear who it was when the content gets promoted. Okay, so I was interviewing Siaka Stevens, who is the grandson of former president of Sierra Leone. He does the Balin parties in Sierra Leone, and he's also working on the Chebro Island project with Idris Elba. And he was really good, but obviously he grew up in the UK, a really serious business person. He was really good about working out the interview with me. And I know he was super busy, so I did not want to be late for my interview with him, right? And but I had scheduled an interview with someone else 4 hours before his to give me plenty of time. If we went over an hour, hour and a half, and she was a little bit late, I said the sex of the person, whatever. She was a little bit late, we were going to figure it out. And I said, okay, look, we're going to be a little bit late, no worries. And so I'm hitting him up, and he was so accommodating. I really appreciate him because obviously he's a big deal in Sierra Leone and it was hard to get him. And so the fact that he was still accommodating and understood, because he knows how it is in Sierra Leone, right? He was just like, you know what, I get it, I understand, because I've been communicating with him the whole time. But my person who I was supposed to be meeting with did not communicate with me. At the time of our interview, I'm calling, texting her, she's not answering. I show up at the place. I'm like, are you on your way? Because she kept saying, I come. Come to find out later, she woke up like 20 minutes after we were supposed to meet up. And then she took her time getting ready. And she acted as if I didn't have stuff to do that day. Then I had a no call, no show. I had someone say to me, so we had a 10 o'clock interview scheduled. My social media manager happens to know this person as well. And so I had my social media manager contacting them. I'm contacting them. We're supposed to meet at 10 a.m. At 12:30, I got a text message that says, I don't wake up before 11 a.m. Well, then why did you agree to a 10 a.m. interview? And the arrogance, the fact that she was so unapologetic about saying, I don't wake up before 11 a.m., no call, no show, and just kind of laughed it off. So the lack of communication, no call, no show, unapologetic, and then blaming others. So there are many folks that blame other people and other things, especially traffic. Oh, the traffic, Salon traffic, Freetown traffic, Ibado. I know, okay, yes, there's traffic. Just leave earlier. Yes, there's traffic. We know there's traffic. There's traffic every day. Traffic isn't new. It's like when I used to live in LA and people were like, yo, I'm sorry, I'm so late, man. Traffic. Yeah, I know. Traffic's always been there. They've been talking about traffic in LA for 20 years. So yeah, these were some of the things that were happening. Short-sightedness, somebody mentioned that earlier. Don't be short-sighted. The short-sightedness, thinking like they're bigger than me, so they can treat me like that, right? Like I'm just some little person who, because my social media presence does not match who I am outside of social media, right? In terms of the business I do and who I am, I still have a growing social media presence. I think many people who have a bigger social media presence than I do, or had a bigger social media presence at that time than I do, tend to take an arrogant approach or short-sighted approach to looking at it like, oh, look at this small guy I want to interview me, small picky not, whatever they think to themselves, right? And sorry for my Creole, it's been bad, whatever, it is what it is. So yeah, customer service is huge, as a huge challenge. Remote management. There are a lot of people managing businesses from outside of the country or outside of the capital city, and ill-prepared for partnership. And what I mean by ill-prepared for partnership is this. If in fact you decide that you are going to work with someone ensure that you have the things that you say you have when you have those meetings with those people and you start the business relationship. So for instance, if you're going to tell somebody, I need money to buy these parts because I have 10 buyers, well, make sure you have the 10 buyers and you can find those parts, because that actually happened with me doing business with someone. Or people running away with money, which also happened to me doing business with someone. And so, I think it's really important to call out some of those challenges so that you understand why this is going on the way it's been going. Okay, so there are a couple of different things that have been going on and comments that have been said. So I want to make sure that I address them. Okay, let's see. We got a bunch of stuff. I agree with the arrogance. It's like an emperor mindset. There's a lot of arrogance. Yes. WM West Africa 1980 says, I'll be back in Sierra Leone at the end of the month, by the way. Cool. I'll be there at the same time. Justice says, all the Lebanese in Africa are not the same, and Africa is the true home of most of them. That's Justice's opinion. Africana says, many of the Lebanese are intergenerationally Sierra Leonean and keep their profits within the country, while there's a lot to unpack historically, structurally, and politically. True. And by the way, yes, that's true. We'll just leave it at that. Africana says, I don't see a problem with interviewing any ethnically Lebanese businesswoman who is sharing her knowledge as opposed to hoarding it. I don't get the sense from that interview that she saw it as a marketing opportunity, but if she did and was holding back information that would be useful to Black or local entrepreneurs, I would feel differently. That is exclusively a marketing opportunity. Yeah. So, I mean, she was sharing good information and insight. Of course, that also came with the questions that I was asking, because I asked the questions personally so I can help other people, because, they're a successful business that's been working. They've been in business 10 years in Sierra Leone. They have clientele that are working at the embassies in the American embassy, the embassies in Sierra Leone, not just the American embassy. And they have other clientele that are actually local Sierra Leoneans and high society folks, all kinds of different people are their clientele. And so there's a reason why they've been able to do that and why it's working. And so I wanted to interview them, and so that other people can see businesses that are doing well, and other people who are local Sierra Leonean businesses can hear from someone how they've been able to build a business. Jaya's laughing because obviously I was getting a little bit worked up in expressing how I felt. So he's laughing at it. Africana says, Lebanon is highly remittance dependent nation, but my understanding is those in Sierra Leone generally have built deep local ties and investments. That is true. Many of them spend their money in country. They buy property, and they own businesses, right? So they are circulating money within Sierra Leone economy, which, by the way, let's look at this. If there's anyone you should be upset with, folks, by the way, is the many Sierra Leoneans who generate wealth and then spend it elsewhere. Think about people in positions of power who come into large lump sums of money that might be coming into the country as foreign aid, who build houses on Millionaires Row in London, or whose houses have been confiscated in the United States. Not going to say who or what positions of power they had, but these are things that happen. But what investments were they making in their own country? Something to think about. But those two things can be true, though. Let's be clear. WM West Africa 1980 says, I'm married to a Sierra Leonean, and I see the way they treat their family. I'll just say it's different. Some people do say that. And Khadija says, stuck in traffic is the number one scapegoat for lateness. Is it ever? For sure. Missy Lane 121 says, do you know any ethnically Sierra Leoneans that want to do good for their country? I do. I actually do know ethnically Sierra Leoneans Sierra Leoneans that do want to do good for their country. Absolutely. I can say everybody who's in my crew, who all lived a long time in the diaspora, who moved back to the continent. We all are focused on that. They all work for nonprofits or NGOs. And then outside of that, they have other businesses that are working to help further develop the country and to bring Sierra Leone back to its rightful place on the world stage. And then I know many other Sierra Leoneans who are working with a lot of other folks around investments and around building businesses in Sierra Leone. So this is not meant to only be disparaging of Sierra Leoneans. It's just meant to explain why I had some challenges. And so, but there are many, actually, there are many folks. And those folks are the folks that I will be trying to highlight through my channel, through interviews over the coming weeks. And you'll get a chance to see many of those. All right. So those are my personal observations on the challenges. I want to then go into what can be done so that more Sierra Leonean businesses are succeeding and are being featured by not just like myself, obviously, but many other prominent news outlets and organizations, right? Okay, be consistent. Number one, be humble. Number two, train your people. Teach and reteach. One of the things that happen here is many people think they can just say it one time, teach somebody how to do things once, and then get frustrated with them because they don't remember how to do it after the first time. You have to reteach folks. Many skills are learned through multiple teachings. Repetition is the mother of all learning, and so you have to teach and reteach. Take everything in stride. You are going to get hit. You're going to get knocked down. You got to get back up. Be on time. Be on time. Be on time. Man, be on time. That's what we need to do more in Sierra Leone is be on time. And we got to stop saying black man time or not black man time. Salon man time. And just kind of laugh about it as if it's nothing. Communicate clearly. What do I mean by communicate clearly? If you're going to be late, do not communicate it at the time in which you are supposed to meet. You know you're running late when you leave your house, or you know you're running late an hour and a half before you leave your house. So just say, I'm going to be a little bit late. If I know I'm going to be late for a meeting, because look, I'm not perfect. I can be late. If I'm going to be late for a meeting, I know far in advance I'm going to be late. So like if I'm on another call that's running over, you know, in Sierra Leone, a lot of times I get random calls and people randomly show up at my house for different things. As soon as someone shows up at my house for something, or as soon as I get a call and get asked to do something, I put that call on speakerphone and I'm immediately messaging the person I'm supposed to be meeting with. If I was about to walk out the door and I'm about to take on something new, or if I'm getting ready and this is slowing me down, I message that person and say, I'm probably going to be 10 to 15 minutes late. I'll let you know when I'm leaving the house so that they don't leave and they're not sitting there waiting for me. Communicate clearly, early and often. Also, apologize for tardiness. One of the things that happens a lot with Sierra Leonean business owners that I've seen and that I've worked with is that they haven't apologized for being tardy. They just kind of laugh it off. Salon time. So that's not a good accent. Salon time, or whatever it is. Salon time, or you know, just whatever. You know, whatever the excuse is. Apologize. Sorry for being late. I always apologize if I'm late. I've always been like that. Apologize. Take accountability. You know what? I was late. That's on me. Not blah, 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 this and that, whatever. It's on me. I'm late. Sorry. Be patient. Be patient with your employees. Be patient. Just period. You just got to be patient because things take time here. Be patient. Expect to struggle. You know, I just rewatched the interview I did with Saka Stevens, the guy who runs the ball-in parties. And one of the things is when he said he started his business, the ball-in parties, which, by the way, he had a successful ball-in party business in London. He did it in Ibiza, in Dubai, and I think Portugal, somewhere else. He had done these ball-in parties elsewhere before and during he was bringing the ball-in parties to Sierra Leone. He expected to struggle for 5 years in Sierra Leone before anything took off. That was what his expectation was, because he's had a business before and because he's also has Sierra Leonean descent. He's of a Sierra Leonean, parents and lineage. So he understood that there were going to be challenges. So expect to struggle if you're starting a business. Teach customer service. We need to teach our folks good customer service. And by the way, that is not exclusive to Sierra Leone. I worked at Jumia, as you guys might be familiar with. It's an e-commerce company, the Amazon of Africa here. And one of the challenges I ran into with some of the younger staff is their customer service skills. I had a phone call the other day with MTN, the local internet company, because my internet went out, and I'm on a text chat, and the person says your internet's been reinstated, but it hadn't been, and they ended the chat. When I was replying to them, they just ended the chat. And you know, most customer service organizations, they're not allowed to hang up until the customer hangs up, but not at MTN. MTN, and this is in Ghana here. The person at MTN was like, turn around. The person said the service is back on. So they just text me, service is back on, ended the chat, moved on. I was like, oh man. And so I had to wait for a new chat person to come on, tell them the whole situation all over again, and then still wait for my service to be turned on because it actually wasn't turned on. So customer service is really important. You need to teach customer service if you're going to build a business and you're going to have local employees. Be on the ground as much as possible, or make sure you have a proxy on the ground who can actually run your business as if they were you locally on the ground, because running a business remotely is a recipe for disaster. You can't watch what's happening with money exchanging hands. You cannot deal with customers. You cannot ensure you're maximizing service. There's so many things that you need to do. And then lastly, have contingencies. That's the one thing that every successful business owner told me. With Capital Foods, they mentioned that they had backup electricity, they had backup water supply. And they're building a third contingency plan for electricity. So they have the main electrical grid, they have a generator, multiple generators, and they're doing solar as well to ensure that their factory never goes out of order. So make sure you have contingencies in place for sure as a business. So Jerry Campbell says, I understood. I appreciate you presenting a balanced view of Sierra Leone. I have to present a balanced view. But again, I know I might show my frustrations here, but at the end of the day, I'm still a Sierra Leonean citizen, and I still spend a significant amount of time in Sierra Leone. I have a business in Sierra Leone. I have real estate in Sierra Leone. A bank account in Sierra Leone. So I am still spending time going back and forth to Sierra Leone. But I just want to be clear that there are challenges, and to answer the questions that people had for me as to why I'm presenting white businesses or Lebanese businesses. Guillermo Williams, thank you very much for the support. As a businessman, I always say, if you are running late, if you don't respect my time. If you're running, sorry, let me reread that. As a businessman, I always say, if you are running late, you don't respect my time. That is true. And it happens in social situations, and it also happens in business situations. I think I told you guys this. When I worked for Jumia, we had a meeting with, who was it? Pernod Ricard, an alcoholic brand. They're an alcohol brand. They have Jameson, I think, right? Yeah, they have Jameson. Pernod Ricard has Jameson. Yeah, that's one of their more well-known brands. Do you know, we had a meeting with them, and the group who was presenting something and asking for more money, of course, I show up on time for the meeting. They themselves pushed the meeting back 30 minutes. So I was there 30 minutes early. Do you know that the rest of my team, including a C-level executive, didn't show up until 30 minutes after the time of the new meeting time? So an hour after the original meeting time is when the rest of my teammates showed up. And then, of course, I'm in a conference room sitting alone, just working, answering emails. And the staff from the company we're there to present to keep saying to me, where are the rest of your folks? And I'm like, I don't know, traffic, Ghana man time. That's all I could say, Ghana man time. What else can I say? These guys are an hour late. I can't, I don't know. I can't, if I can snap my fingers and make them magically appear, I would have, but I couldn't. We had another meeting with the Singapore some Singapore business initiative. Big deal for Ghana. They want to do some, a lot of different things with businesses and bringing business to Ghana. The same thing. I show up there. I have to start presenting my presentation so that we can kill some time, because they only had an hour to meet. And do you know the two other people who had to present showed up 30 minutes late for that meeting as well? Walked in. Now, at least they apologized. Ghanaians tend to be apologetic, at least the ones that I've met and that I worked with. They tended to be apologetic. So they did apologize. But It was crazy to come in 30 minutes late for that meeting. And then there was another time where I went an hour away from town to Tema because of traffic to get to a meeting, for that person to be in another meeting for a full hour, then another call for another 30 minutes. So we were an hour and 30 minutes late, that I was just sitting there waiting for them to meet with them. These folks, as a matter of fact, the folks at Bell Aqua, when I went to go meet with them, it's all the way at their factory in Tema. They were that late. Anyway, so that was just not an ideal scenario. And I got home at almost 9 p.m. that night when it was supposed to be a 4 p.m. meeting. Yeah. So that's that. Because it was supposed to be a 4 p.m. meeting. They were an hour and a half late, so we didn't start the meeting till 5:30. Do you know that when we got in the meeting, because they were late, there was supposed to be some taste tests for new products that they're tasting. They allowed those people to come into our meeting. They have us doing the taste test. They're doing the taste test, and we're trying to get advertising dollars from them. So we're like, fine, yeah, we'll do the taste test, whatever. Yeah. You're an hour and a half late for the meeting. But what's another 40 minutes, an hour, or whatever? Yeah, do taste test, whatever. So now we're there for like 2 hours doing the meeting till like 7:30, and then it takes me an hour and a half to get home after that. I got home at 9 o'clock when I left my house at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I was on time though. So anyway, these are all challenges that you could find, but these are some of the solutions that I have. All right, that is the rant done. Any other questions, comments, thoughts on today's discussion that you would like to ask or put in the comments here? I don't know if I missed any comments on Instagram. Let me take a look to see if I did. Let me see. A lot of people have been joining Instagram live, so apologies if I missed you. Let's see. I'm giving you guys a chance to just give me any last minute questions or comments you might have before we bring this thing to a close. Hopefully you guys found this useful. Okay, if you found this useful, actually, can you guys give me a thumbs up? I want to see some more engagement from you folks. Did you guys find this useful? If you found it useful, can you give me a thumbs up? If you disagree with anything I said, throw a thumbs down in there too, and tell me why you disagree. I'd love to hear from you guys. I really want to know what you guys think. If you agree, give me a thumbs up, or if you found it useful, give me a thumbs up. If you disagree, give me a thumbs down in the chat, or give me a thumbs up or a W, or a thumbs down or an L. If you disagree, I want to hear from you guys. I want to see some thumbs ups, thumbs downs. What do you guys think? Who's joining? And there were a lot of people that joined on Instagram that I missed. So apologies for missing all of you guys as I'm going through and scrolling through Instagram. No thoughts? Nothing? Phoenix Mars just joined. What's up, Phoenix Mars? Welcome to the live. Hayford joined too. What's up, Hayford? Long time no speak, bro. Let's definitely catch up soon. I want to get this podcast shot. I'm leaving in less than 2 weeks, so we got to shoot some content. All right. So Miss Elaine says that either she agrees or found it useful. Christabella either agrees or found it useful. Long time. Welcome back. Thanks for joining. Jaya Kai. Jaya, what's up, man? Jaya agrees or found it useful. Phoenix Mars says, great discussion as always, with the thumbs up. Thank you, Phoenix Mars. I appreciate it. Okay. So as I mentioned to you guys before, stay tuned. This Wednesday, I have my interview with Veronica about her life in Sierra Leone and why she moved to the United States. And then immediately following that on Sunday, we are putting out the 5 major changes in Sierra Leone. If you haven't traveled to Sierra Leone yet, and you've watched my 10 things I wish I knew before coming to Sierra Leone, you need to watch this now, because this new video will explain to you all the new changes. So definitely check that out. Phoenix Mars is asking, do you post much on TikTok? I do. I post twice a day on TikTok. I have a little over 19,000 followers on TikTok as well. So shout out to all of you guys who've been following and liking the content on TikTok. I am not a TikTok user myself, to be honest with you. I don't scroll through TikTok. I read the terms of service. I'm not a fan of it. But my social media manager is a big fan of TikTok, and so she posts content that I give her to post on TikTok. So much of it are clips from the longer post. I am posting some original content soon. I'm going to be shooting some original content. Don't expect to see me doing any dance challenges on TikTok though anytime soon. Maybe one or two, but it's pretty unlikely. So, but for the most part, I am gonna try my best to do more original content for TikTok. Aisha Kamara says was found it useful or agreed with what I said, and Jerry Campbell also found it useful. Great. Phoenix Mars is I'm just learning how to use TikTok. Good. TikTok is a platform for anybody who's a marketer who has any content that they create. You want to be on all platforms. So Phoenix Mars is saying they use it for their business. So yeah, I definitely recommend using it for your business. Just keep in mind that their terms of service are very relaxed. And not only are their terms of service relaxed, but they don't require a warrant for their government to ask for data and details from any user who uses the platform. So if that's at all concerning to you, just keep that in mind. And when you get a chance, you can either just Google TikTok terms of service. People have taken screenshots of it, or you can just click on the terms of service and just scroll down to privacy. If you're interested, if you want to have a good read, go ahead and check that out. I read it. It's wild. They can devices of friends, all your devices. They can do all kinds of stuff, and everybody just clicks yes, okay, and scrolls away. So just so you know, HSC Awareness said, bro, give me advice on how to grow my Instagram and to stay motivated. I can't tell you how to stay motivated, except for the fact that whatever you're building towards, your why, they say your why should make you cry. Whatever it is that you are building towards needs to be strong enough for you to be able to deal with the adversity you're going to deal with. Do you guys know that I was stuck at 30,000 followers on Instagram for 6 months? And then in fact, I lost 2,000 followers and I got shadow banned on Instagram last year. I was pissed, but I kept posting every day, still paid a social media manager to post. We're still doing community engagement. I was still coming up with new ways. So how did I stay motivated? Because my goal is to share information and to grow a media platform, and I didn't let it get in my way. So I stay motivated because my reason for doing this is bigger than myself. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than just making money, because I'm losing money on all these platforms that I'm spending money on. I spend over $1,500 a month on social media, on everything that I do in terms of my social media manager, my editor, my managers, my editors. I've decided to have social media managers here on the continent, which means that I have to be more invested with my time to ensure I maximize their usage, because I can't just give them stuff to do and they just run with it. I have to actually supervise it and watch along and double check and do work myself. But I decided that's what I was going to do because it's bigger than me, right? So that's the way I stay motivated is because I know what the larger plan and goal is. What also keeps me motivated is by going live and communicating back and forth with you all. That's really kept me motivated. Now, advice for how to grow it. Number one, you need to post content that other people aren't posting. You need to post more than other people. You need to engage with people in your niche, in their comments, and with them. You should pay people to post on your behalf so you can get some of their subscribers to follow you. You need to post different types of posts. Reels are getting pushed a whole lot more, and going live gets pushed. So you need to go live. You need to post reels. You guys might notice the majority of my posts now are reels. And my reels have been going viral. I had a reel that got 3 million views. I got another reel that got 2 million views. So you definitely are going to need to post reels. You're going to need to do carousel posts so people engage with your post and swipe. And people have to like your post and to share your post. You need to post things that are time bound and interesting in the moment. If you guys who follow me on Instagram may have remembered, a year ago, I wasn't posting news stories as often, or I was just reposting news stories. Now I am doing research and I am creating news posts myself. I'm posting those. So I'm going through and I'm finding out, okay, I wake up one morning and I see LSU is trending, and I see Angel Reese is trending. And I'm like, why is she trending? And so I said to myself, you know what? Instead of just posting that she's trending, why don't I help people understand who she is and why she's trending? So I made a post about that. 3,000, however many likes. One of my best performing posts that I've created or that I've curated, right? And that is because people, it was time bound, it was in the moment. People were trying to understand it, and they found that they could get that information from my platform. So what you need to do, HSC awareness, is make sure that people come to you for information, and they log in and search for your page. I know many people who don't want to admit it, but I know many people who, when they log into Instagram, if Shade Room doesn't show up in their feed, they do a search for the Shade Room, go to the Shade Room to get their news and celebrity gossip and whatever. So the Shade Room has become a destination for people. I would like Authentic African to become a destination for African news and information. And so if you know that, then that'll be how you help yourself grow. And then the last thing I'll mention is use Instagram as a tool to learn. Watch what other people who are in your niche are doing, other people in other niches are doing, and that's working for them, and apply that to your own business. Learn from others. Instagram is a free university. So is YouTube. You can learn from other people who are doing what's working. They say success leaves clues. What does that mean? That means that people who have had and attained the success you are looking for generally tell it. They do interviews, they talk about it. You can see it through what they do on their pages. And so what I would definitely recommend is follow those folks and learn from them. Stay consistent. Post same day, same time, every day, without fail. Enter as many comments as possible and comment on as many posts. Real comments. Don't do bots. Real thoughts, real comments with your real voice. People will come back and follow you. And how do I know that? Because I got 18,000 followers from January 7th through this weekend. 19,000 now. So for sure that works. And listen, I told you last year I was stuck the same number of followers for 6 months. So I'm telling you, it works. It works. But you're gonna have to be unreasonable and do things that other people aren't gonna do, right? Like when it comes to anything in business or any level of financial success or success anywhere, anything, you have to do now what others won't, so you can have later what others can't. And so, I spend $1,500 a month. People think that that's crazy because it's not generating any revenue for me, but it is generating the ability. It's generating inbound leads for my business. It's generating inbound, what am I looking for? Inbound excitement, inbound leads, inbound communication from folks who want to invest on the continent, who are looking for someone who can work for them living on the continent, right? So it definitely has its benefits, and for sure, I would definitely recommend. Jerry Campbell said, it's true, worked for me and kept me engaged in terms of responding to comments. So Jerry Campbell is someone who is very engaged in the comments. I know who Jerry is because Jerry comments, and I reply to his comments. I reply to all my comments on YouTube. My community manager replies to a lot of comments on YouTube. I reply to as many DMs as I can. Nobody else is replying to my DMs. I reply to all the DMs that I can. I may not reply to every DM, but I reply to as many DMs as I can. But I'm the one replying to the DMs. The community engagement, I and my community team are responding to the posts. So I'm not the only one engaging in the comments because I have a team, right? This is a multimedia platform. Authentic African is not me. I don't call myself Authentic African. It's a media platform. So I do want to mention that. But Jerry is a good example. And as you can see, when I'm live, I post all the comments on screen, not just the ones where people, support the channel financially. If you have something to say, as long as you're not trolling, I will bring your comment and put it up on screen. And I will say, nothing worth having comes easy, HSC awareness. If it was easy, everyone would do it, right? And so, once I started a YouTube channel, I had so much more respect for the Paul brothers, Logan Paul and Jake Paul. I used to think that they were idiots. I'm like, these guys are just dumb trolls. They're idiots. And then like, you know, the Sidemen group in the UK, I was like, this is just idiocy and just stupidness. And then I started a YouTube channel for real. And I have so much respect for them because the amount of work it takes to be consistent, to edit your own videos, to post, I mean, it requires a lot. You guys have no idea what goes on in the hours that I am off screen. Like, you know, and you guys hear me talk about it a lot. When I'm done, I'm going back to work. I mean, it took me all day to work on this presentation. And over the weekend, I had to decide what I was going to talk about, and I couldn't figure it out. So this morning, I came up with the idea I was going to talk about this. After this weekend, I was hit with a barrage of messages about me interviewing Lebanese folks. And I said, how can I make this a productive conversation? And so, oh, and sorry, HSE awareness too. Make sure you know who your target audience is. And by your target audience, it cannot be everyone, all ages. So many businesses start and they say, I want my business to be for everyone. Male, female, ages 18 to 99. Every country. It cannot be that way. You need to create an exact persona of the person you are looking to target. So now, once you do that, your audience expands from there. So let me explain what mine is. I know this is off topic a little bit. I hope this is still interesting to everybody, especially those of you who create content. Sorry. But my initial target audience was a person who was like me 5 years before I ever moved to West Africa. Someone who had either visited or who was interested in visiting, who had disposable income so that they could travel, someone who was of a certain age, and male, of course, because that was me, male, and had the ability to take time off because their job allowed them to, right? So it's a very specific type person, right? This is a very specific person. Now, as you guys have heard all the names that I've said, that is not the only people that are on here, but 70% of the people who consume my content are those people. And because I am talking to them in particular, they are sharing content to other people that they think will find it interesting. They become advocates on your behalf. Every day I log into Instagram, there are between 60 and 100 stories where a story that I posted is being featured in their story, or a post that I posted is being featured in their post, or has been saved, or has been shared. And that is because I know exactly who I am targeting. And if you know that, then you can start to think like them. And it's easy for me because I'm thinking like myself. And I'm offering a solution to myself, basically an earlier version of myself. So that made it easy. But if you're starting any business endeavor, that's what you need to do. Narrow down your target audience to one persona, one customer persona. And that person, those people will grow your tribe. Oh, and it had to be someone who takes interest on the continent of Africa, who's interested in learning about history. Because I will tell you what, there are some friends of mine, some exes. I had a conversation with my ex today, and she said, "Oh, there must be really smart." She said, one of my exes. She said, "There must be really smart people who follow you because look at all these people commenting on this rubbish content. It's boring." She said. Now, of course, she's an ex. She's like, I don't have time to read that stuff. I was like, okay, well, she's obviously not in the target audience, right? And that's fine. You know, she just follows because she wants to support me and my business, and that's fine. And many of my friends follow because they want to support me, but they don't actually engage with the content because they are not the target audience. They don't want to move here. They never thought about moving here. So yeah, I hope that helps SSC awareness and anybody else who thinks, or who's creating content. Okay. All right. Let's see. Darth Dooku. Darth Dooku. I think this is like a Star Wars reference, I guess. Okay. Arabs are being displaced from the Middle East into Africa by Zionist colonizers. It's part of the Great Reset. Okay. I don't know. I can't really speak to that. Two Visions supported the channel. Thank you, Two Visions. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you for the support, the financial support. By the way, I didn't tell you guys that I spend $1,500 a month for the financial support, but I will take it and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Manelik has joined us. What's up, Manelik? And by the way, I want to shout out Manelik. because Manelik has been following for a long time. And a lot of times when you see, if you watch back a live and you see timestamps in there, so you know where to jump to, Manelik was the person that was watching the lives in real time or watching it back as a replay and sending me the timestamps. And he just volunteered to do that. And I really appreciate it. And by the way, if anybody else wants to volunteer to do it, I know it's a lot of work, which is why I don't have anybody else doing it. But if anybody else wants to volunteer to do it, please do let me know. And you can feel free to follow along as well. Jerry Campbell said, okay, worked, yeah, about me communicating. And you will be the person I contact when I'm establishing a business in Sierra Leone. So this speaks to what I was talking about, because I do, my goal is to deal with people who want to build businesses in Sierra Leone, who want to invest in Sierra Leone. And because of the approach and because I know who my target audience is and why I'm making the content that I make, it is actually getting me in front of those people, and it's working. So I absolutely would say stick to that ASE awareness. Fatima Bangura says, thank you so much, my brother. Thank you for joining, Fatima. Lelaser? Sorry, I hope I'm not pronouncing your name wrong. Can Sierra Leoneans go and live and set up businesses in Lebanon? That's a good question. They could, probably with a visa, but I don't think they would. But that is a good question. And some more support. Swift Maine supporting. Please, fam, hit the like button. Swift Maine, my man. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate the support. 3 different people supported the channel today, so I want to shout you guys out again. So we got Swift Maine with the support, $5 support. We got two visions with the $5 support, and we got Guillermo with that $4.99 support, or $5 support is $5. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You all got 5 on it, and I appreciate it. That is $15 from this live that you guys are supporting. Every little bit counts, and I want you to know that I really do. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. All love, Two Visions says. Well, thank you, Two Visions. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, we've been going for 1 hour and 57 minutes. This has been a long live, high energy live. I ate dinner right before I got on. HSC Awareness said that was helpful, gave me a thumbs up. Mavis Nobleman says, love the energy and purpose. Thank you. I appreciate it. What else? HSC Awareness says, I'm in the same niche as you. Okay, great. So HSC Awareness, just follow what I'm doing. It's a blueprint. It'll help you grow your business. Just keep going. Phoenix Mars says, oh, I guess not, LOL, about something that I said. I don't know what I said. Let me know. I don't know if I missed your original comment. I'm sorry if you commented something and I missed it. Phoenix Mars, I'm sorry if I did. You know, that's why I always say go to the YouTube live and put your comments there, because it's so much harder to follow the Instagram comments. It's very difficult. So sorry if I missed it. Oh, it's not rubbish at all. Okay, okay, she's talking about the YouTube channels that I used to say were rubbish and BS. No, you're right. They're not at all. Not at all rubbish. I learned a lot, and I look at them as they're serious business people for real, and you can see why they can go on and do other big businesses. Core Fitness. What's up, Core Fitness? Welcome back. Thanks for joining. Amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining. All right, guys. We are at 1 hour and 58 minutes. You guys have been on consistently the whole time, and I appreciate your engagement. I really do. But now it is going on at 11 p.m. You know, here's what I'm going to do, because I want it to be exactly 2 hours. We got 1 more minute till it's 2 hours. Excuse me, by the way. Go ahead and put your last couple of questions or comments in before we bring this thing to a close. Any last minute questions? Literally every single time I close out of the live, I get like 1 or 2 questions as I hit, right after I hit end broadcast, I can see the questions come in. So I'm telling you now, we got another minute or 2 before the live is done. Any last questions or comments you guys want to mention that we could talk about? Phoenix Mars said she was asking if I was surprised by the actual demographics of my followers. No, I wasn't. I wasn't surprised because the actual demographics of my followers match who I expected my demographic to be because I make content for that demo. Because I decided who my demo was before I started the Authentic African e-commerce site and before I started the Authentic African Instagram page. And then when I started the YouTube channel, it was just kind of bringing in that same demo. So I'm not surprised at all because it actually happens to meet that. Now, I will say, sometimes I'm surprised about some of the groups that are growing within the demos, right? So like I see South Africa growing a lot, and I think that's because of this one viral vote post that was from a prom in South Africa. And then I see the Nigerian group growing pretty substantially now too, when mostly all of it was in the US. I see Nigerian and South Africans, and Kenya is growing as a key demographic for me. So that's a little bit surprising, I think, more surprising than I never anticipated that. Aisha Kamara is asking, how can I establish a transportation business in Sierra Leone? So a couple different things you have to do. Number one, obviously, you want to go to Sierra Leone, start a business, and you need to determine what kind of transportation you want to do. So one of the things I think I will do at some point in time in the future is buy a Toyota Hiace, because I know a driver who will be taking 2 trips to Bo a day. And so that would be, a trip to Bo and a trip back daily. And then I'll buy a second car, I do a trip Bo and a trip back daily. And then eventually I'll have multiple trips back and forth to Bo from Freetown and then to other provinces as well. I do want to establish a transportation business at some point in time in the future. But you have to buy the vehicles and you have to do the research and you have to do the marketing locally. But it's actually not that difficult because at the end of the day, people are trying to go to Bo all the time. And people are looking for cheap ways to go to Bo. So you need to find a driver that you can trust, who you know is going to collect the money and keep the money and pay you out. So that's going to be a challenging thing. So that would be something I would definitely mention to you. But absolutely, you can start one. But make sure you go to Sierra Leone as often as possible if you're not already in Sierra Leone, and figure out what the demand is for the type of transportation business you want to start. That's a good question. Hopefully that answers your question. But who's your target? Where are you going? What kind of vehicle you're going to get? How much are you willing to pay for that vehicle? How often do you want to go back and forth? Who are your drivers going to be? How are you going to collect money? How are you going to put receipts together, right? For every single person, how are you going to track how many people were picked up on the way to Bo? How many people were brought back from Bo to Freetown? All of that stuff. You're going to have to think about all of that as part of your business. And then you're going to have to think about things I'm not thinking about. Here's another thing. How are you, because there's indefinitely going to be a fuel shortage at some point in time. Or there's definitely going to be a fuel shortage at some point in time. How do you store extra fuel? Make sure you know about that. And what are you going to do there? And make sure you have a mechanic on call. Best if you have the mechanic in the vehicle when you're driving, because if that car breaks down halfway between Freetown and Bo, it's a wrap on trying to get somebody to come out there and fix the car. You can make it happen, but I'm going to tell you right now, this happened to me on my way to Lungay from Bo twice. The car's broken down, and man, that is a challenge to say the least. Okay. Zrenwia says Lebanese will not put Africans on in Lebanon, but that's not their fault. Okay. Talija says Sierra Leoneans have businesses in Egypt and UAE that I know of. I think they could be in Lebanon. Let's say the Lebanese government will not let them. It's their loss to be intolerant. It's a good point. Core Fitness says, is Lebanon safe for our citizens? I think any country technically can be relatively safe. I think it depends on where you are and who you align yourself with when you go to a country. Now, Lebanon specifically, I don't know a lot of details about Lebanon, but I would not go to a country where a lot of people are leaving that country for a better life, right? So in my opinion, that's probably not a country I would probably go to. But then again, I came to Ghana, so I guess I'm directly contradicting myself. And I spent a lot of time in Sierra Leone, and many people leave those countries for a better life. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go to a country Yeah, that's a lie too, because I was going to say I wouldn't go to a country where people are escaping that country to come to your country, but I did that with the United States to spend a lot of time in Sierra Leone. But yeah, I mean, I think it's relative, right? Would they be safe? They could be safe, but I think it's how you move in any new country determines whether or not you're safe. Good question. And Kwame says this has been useful. Good. I'm glad it has been. All right, guys. We are at 11:04 and 2 hours and 5 minutes and 16 seconds and counting. I want to thank you all for joining. If you guys know anybody who wants to know why I am highlighting Lebanese businesses in Sierra Leone, send them this live. If you know anybody who wants to start a business in Sierra Leone, send them this live. If you know anybody who's interested in starting a social media platform, send them this live, because we spent a pretty good amount of time at the end of this for some folks who asked about what I do on social media and what I would recommend. But make sure you share this with them, whether that's through WhatsApp, through email, through whatever way you do it. Share this with iMessage, whatever, text message, SMS, send this to people. Make sure that they get a chance to see this, because the idea of this is just sharing it with people. And then once again, I want to thank 3 people for their financial support. Once again, Swift Main, that $5, and with 2 Visions, and Guillermo. I want to thank you all again, and I want to thank everyone for joining. Remember, on Wednesday, we got the interview with Veronica, and on Sunday, we got the 5 more things that you need to know before going to Sierra Leone. With that, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you all on the next video.